Welcome, everyone, to Women's Speakers Association's WSA TV Women's Premier Show. Today, we have a special episode with Charmaine Hammond, who's going to talk to us about how to turn your book into a business. Now, it's one thing to have a book, and it's a great thing to be a best-selling author, and that offers huge credibility when you achieve that. But if you stop there, you're literally leaving money and opportunities of a lifetime on the table. So, well, I'm stopping my share and welcome, Charmaine.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
I am thrilled to have you because many of our Premier members are already best-selling authors. We
Yeah.
actually have another best-selling launch coming up next week, so we'll have
Yes.
another 40 authors to be best-selling authors of the book on May 14th, coming soon. Voices of
Woohoo.
the 21st Century, passionate, powerful, passionate women who make a difference. And I know, Charmaine, you're even in this book,
Yes.
and
Super excited.
we are super excited about that too. And so stay tuned for that. That's next Thursday's show when we're going to be celebrating our bestseller status. We have all the plans in place to do that. But what happens after that, right?
Mm.
I know you're going to be collaborating next week on a panel of some of our premier members to talk to us
Yes.
about and that is our speaker success training. So go to
Mm-hmm.
speakersuccesstraining.com and you can, for this month, we have a special free for everyone. Normally it's free for our premier members, but now it's free for everyone to come to your panel next week
Yeah.
about how to turn your book into a business. And we
Mm-hmm.
do these speaker success trainings every month. And this is going to be a special one. So, Charmaine, I know you're going to be, as of next week, a six-time international best-selling
Yeah.
author. So let's talk about a bit about your experience. How have you then taken this bestseller status, even the first time you became a best-selling
Mm-hmm.
author, and turned that into a business?
I love that question. I think a lot of authors look at their book sales as a one-to-one transaction. And I did too. When I first had my very first book come out, which is almost 11 years now, I was selling books one at a time. And I thought, this is really fun. And it takes a lot of time and work. And to show up for 4 hours at a book signing, you sell, 10 books, six people already have your book, but they bought it to support you. So I thought there's got to be an easier way. So as I started to learn about selling your books in bulk, even at book signings, selling your books in bulk, selling your book to corporations and associations and community groups, selling your books to service clubs to use as their fundraisers. So once I started to think about the book as an actual product, and just like I plan in my business, marketing activities related to speaking, for example, I start to do the same thing for my book. And I discovered real fast that when you start having goals for your book, such as the number of books that you want to sell in a year, the number that you're going to give away as review copies or as gifts to people or prizes at events you speak at, the clearer your goals, the more aligned you are to actually sell them. And it can be a very significant revenue generating aspect of your business if you market correctly.
Can you give us some insights into what that means when you say if you market correctly? So you
Yeah.
treat your book as a product,
Yeah.
like an essential like part of your business now,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, exactly. And I'll give you an example. A lot of speakers who have books, they'll bring copies of the books to the event, but they actually don't make the book part of their speaking engagement. So people kind of hear about it at the end. A speaker holds up the book and says, my books are at the back of the room. So that's one approach, and it's probably a very low conversion. But if you think about this from the bigger perspective, maybe you read a quote or two from your book, or you get people in the audience to do an exercise that you read from your book, and you actually have your books displayed at the front of the room instead of just at the back of the room. When I discovered that, my book sales doubled to tripled every single event. And I would see them decline when I would get to speak at an event and they wouldn't allow me to have a table at the front. The book sales dropped dramatically. So I thought, okay, there is something to be said about where you place your books in a room. But again, it's got to be strategic. It's got to be thought out. You've got to have the supports available to help you. So while you're at the front of the room, because believe me, if you're selling from the front of the room after a speaking engagement, lots of people will come there and the other ones have to leave. the room. So you need to have somebody at the back, and again, planning and creating a real marketing strategy for each event that you speak at. Same thing for book signing events.
You've just dropped so much wisdom here. And I wanted to also say, when someone sees your book and they're seeing it the whole time throughout your whole
Yeah,
talk, and maybe even you're referencing it, you see it a couple of times, then it's a way, you're actually giving them a way to take you home with them.
exactly. Yeah, and it doesn't feel like just this add-on. And I remember watching a speaker years and years ago. It's before my first book came out, and I remember thinking, "Wow, how exciting this is! She's got a real book. She's got a book that just came out," and I was super excited. And then as she talked about it in her presentation, she would say, my book," never mentioned the title, so we had no idea. It wasn't in her bio. And so I'm waiting for the book. I'm thinking she's going to reveal it at the end. I'm just on pins and needles. And at the end, she kind of whipped up her book like, "Oh, and you can buy my book at the back of the room." And it was so deflating as an audience member because I was psyched and, pumped up about this and wanted to celebrate. I wanted to buy her book. And I remember thinking, wow, if she had just done this, this, and this, I think it would have generated a lot more sales.
It sounds like one of the mistakes that authors make and speakers make and business owners make when they have a book and they're not leveraging it.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh yes. And I will be the first to say that I have made these mistakes as well. I have made the mistake of going to many speaking engagements and not bringing my book because I'm thinking this book is totally off target to who I'm speaking to. This is a room full of, I'll give you an example. I was speaking to a room full of 90% men in the policing industry. So I figured that my GPS Your Best Life book, which is for women, or On Toby's Terms, which is about my dog Toby, I figured that's not going to, those books won't really fit for policemen. When they saw the photos of the books I had written on my slide, on my screen, at the end they said, "Oh, where are your books?" And uh, and I said, "Oh, you're interested in them?" And he says, "Oh my gosh, I want to buy one of the GPS ones for all of the admin workers." And I thought, "Oh my gosh." So I make these mistakes too. And that was the big reminder that, we don't have to look at our book being the perfect fit for that perfect audience because the audience has connections and family and clubs and groups they belong to that may be a fit for your book.
And so, there's so many takeaways from that, including be proud of your book. You never know when somebody's going to be interested in taking you home with them or having a resource for someone else in their life or a colleague or a coworker, right? Or even a young person, if you have like a book about your dog, it could be,
Yep.
everybody has other people in their lives, and they once they fall in love with you from watching you, they want to take you home. They really, really do. And so there are some significant steps. I know you've learned a lot of lessons along the way. And next week, you're going to have a panel of people
Mm.
who's going to share their lessons. And what else? What else can people expect?
Yeah, we're going to be diving into some additional strategies to make your book a business. So it's actually a revenue generating side of your business. We're going to share some tips of what these authors have done successfully to market their book. So you're going to hear a lot about creative marketing strategies, some strategies that the authors implemented that they didn't think would have as big of an impact as they did. You're going to hear a story about surprises that you can get from Amazon when you actually know how to work with Amazon correctly. So I don't want to blow that surprise, but it was really big for one of the authors, and ways to keep your book on the best-selling list and how to get your book into uh, not only the hands of readers around the world, but into places that can get your book into the hands of readers. So libraries, bookstores, gift stores, non-traditional sales. And those will be some of the strategies that we'll be talking about next week. And I'm really excited because the panel brings you three speakers and myself who work in very different ways, very different business models, and you'll hear very different ideas of what could work for you.
And even very different personality styles.
Yes.
You don't have to be an extrovert. You could be an introvert and have success with a bestseller book and turn it into a
Totally.
business. In fact, I would think
Absolutely.
it's perfect for an introvert to have a book and use that, make your book work for you, right?
Absolutely. One of the students I worked with a couple of years ago, um, beautiful writer and very much an introvert, and didn't I remember thinking, wow, how are we going to help this person sell their book? Because they didn't want to, they had no passion or desire to be a speaker and didn't really want to do a lot of book signing events. So I thought, okay, this is a completely different marketing strategy. And what we discovered is she's incredible on the phone, just incredible on the phone. And her book started to become Christmas gifts for different companies. So it was really interesting to see that you can also be creating bulk buys without appearing live on a stage. There are many activities that you can do from home. And I mean, in the situation we're in right now, where none of us can go to a book signing or to a speaking engagement live. I mean, we're all in this together right now. There are incredible strategies that you can be doing right now while at home when these other opportunities aren't available for you. And we'll be talking a little bit about that next week as well.
That's awesome. In fact, we just had one gal here on our Facebook page mention she's going to be Christine is ready to be in the next book, the next Voices. So every
Woo!
year we do a
Yay.
Voices of the 21st Century book, and we will be shortly letting you know how you can be in the next one, or you can just go to voicesofthe21stcentury.com and go ahead and see how you can join us there. But in the meantime, next week is going to take you to that next level, which I love that we're having these three people, including yourself, to join us to
Mhm.
talk about how can we actually leverage it. Now, let's talk about what are the challenges that
Mm,
prevent authors and speakers from turning their book into a business.
yeah. So a challenge, and I had this challenge I had to overcome. A challenge is often we just don't know what we don't know. So we know, we might, and then there's that next level. I know that I should get my book into bookstores and libraries, but I don't know who to call, what to say, how to price this, how to do all that. And my experience has been when we're way out of our comfort and knowledge zone, we tend to do nothing, or you just burst through it and figure it out as you go. And so that's one of the challenges. I think the other challenge is just that time management piece, especially for speakers. So they're off traveling, speaking, putting their presentations together, creating material, being on media, and then often the book marketing will take a back seat. I have seen in my life over the last 10 years with my books that happen in cycles. So for me, the fall is very busy as a speaker, and I tend to be traveling a lot, and I will see book sales decline dramatically unless I'm very, very focused on selling books. And part of the way I do that is it's the books are part of my speaking contract. So that has been a nice, easy way to sell books. And it also gives a bit of a negotiation tool. And I guess the other challenge I'll mention is just the whole piece of systematizing the book side of your business. There's a lot of things that you'll do repeatedly. For example, if you're writing a letter or phoning one library, chances are, and you should be, phoning 50 libraries or calling 50 libraries. And so, how do you create something that just with a flip of a button, you can just email that and everything is prepared? And I think what happens a lot of times for us as entrepreneurs is we do things in a very one-off way. So we'll create something, send it, and then spend an hour digging around that email to find the email we sent. And so, right? So the more that you can create systems and tools, you will save yourself so much time. So instead of looking for what you created in the past, it's all filed together and then you can just get it done.
And I know you are the master of book marketing systems. So people are going to be really lucky to join us at the speakersuccesstraining.com, at Speaker Success Training next week on Wednesday at, is it 1 o'clock? Believe 1 o'clock Pacific. Just go there. You'll get all the information, speakersuccesstraining.com. It is free for
Yes.
non-members as well as members. This is a one-time special, we're doing, we are in our book launch phase for the Voices of the 20 this year's version. It's so exciting to have you as our
Mm.
like secret weapon, I should say, or secret edge on the whole process, because not only do members of our books and our
Mhm.
organization who become best-selling authors with WSA Publishing get the benefit of training from you. I mean, you have systems that you can offer.
Mhm.
And is there any last piece of advice you want to offer people, an encouragement to come to your panel next week on this?
Yeah, I think the other piece would be to, I really am excited to talk about the bulk buy and I discovered, and I know you've heard me say this, Laura, before, that my husband, who's a real numbers guy, tracked this for a period of time. And he said, Charmaine, I think that it takes you the same amount of time to sell 10 books and 100 books as it does to sell one. And I thought, that is crazy. Why am I not selling them at 10 or 100? And and so we figured out, like, how does one do that? And that I'll be sharing some of the really I'm going to call them easy to implement. I'm one of these people who likes to just sort of get it done, and I like completion, I guess you could say. And but I'm not a great finisher, which means that for me to have completion happen, it has to be a very easy process for me to actually get things completed, or I have to hire people to do it. So I've created systems that I can create, that I can actually do myself. It's completed, or I can hand it off to other people. So we'll be talking about bulk buys, which really generates more revenue. But the other piece is that the more people that have your book in their hand, the more likely you are to be booked for speaking, for media, for other bulk sales.
Ah, I love your vulnerability, letting us know that, because many of us are not completers, but you can get things complete when you do have the systems that help you get that done.
Yeah, I
So
have learned how to work with myself, Laura.
we all need to do that. And,
Yeah,
and, we can learn from each other. And that's what we're
yeah,
doing next week on the Speaker Success Training. And so just go and be sure to reserve your spot. You have to it's a private webinar. So you'll have to reserve your spot, whether you're a member or not. But for non-members, you get it free this month. Woohoo.
hey,
Mark your
that's awesome.
calendars. I know we already have a bunch of people signed up, and we're looking forward to gleaning your wisdom along with your other panel members about that, and also celebrating the success of our Voices of the 21st Century powerful, passionate women who make a difference. That will be on sale starting May 13th as well. So we'll have a big party May 13th, and May 14th we'll be back to celebrate the bestseller status again, because we've got that system in place to do that, right?
Exactly, exactly.
And thank you so much. And I can't wait
Thank
for your
you.
training next week. Again, that's May 13th, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And go to speakersuccesstraining.com to reserve your spot. Thanks, Charmaine.
Thank you so much.